So by now, I think most of you know me. I'm Glenn Seehausen. I'm with ACAD Plus, and we're the partner that helped set up Meridian for the University of Colorado, CU Boulder. So this is all about CU Boulder's implementation of document management. It's certainly going to have a lot of content that's going to be talking to the specific product, Meridian, that they chose and use. But you can gain a lot from this presentation about document management in general. So you can apply this to other solutions if you wanted to. But obviously, you're going to see a lot of Meridian. We are going to show some live stuff, so we're going to try to rattle through the PowerPoint and not bore you with too much more PowerPoint and let you see some real software. I know that I get to the point where I'm starving for that after a while, so I assume others do. So I'm going to let Ariane introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Ariane Gilliland. I think I've met a lot of you already. I'm the process analyst for planning, design, and construction here at CU Boulder. So my main responsibility is to write process, integrating all of our solutions that we use and integrating our solutions into our processes. So it's mainly what I do all day long. I write a lot. So, and I get to talk to people too. So, Phil?
I can talk loud. I'm Phil Martin. I work in the CAD, GIS, document management, and about 6 other things office. I work predominantly with the building floor plans, anything building related as far as project drawings, that type of thing, and I'm responsible for getting all those into Meridian. We started Meridian almost 5 years ago, and we spent 3.5 years with anywhere from 1 to 7 students backfilling our archived project stuff into Meridian. And that was about 80,000 drawings.
So we actually tried to spare Phil from having to do a lot of preparation for this presentation. So he's got a very small role today. That's not because he's had a small role with Meridian.
No.
Not at all.
Before I mislead anybody with the lack of involvement in this presentation, please understand, CU Boulder would not have what they have today if it wasn't for that gentleman. But I knew he was going to be busting his tail for the CFTA event itself, so I didn't want him to have to worry about this also. So, but thank you, Phil, for all you've done.
We weren't sure we were going to be
awesome
here.
Job.
Yeah, great conference.
All right, so I'm going to let, actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to start by just telling you the agenda, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ariane for a while. So yeah, we did the introduction. She's going to talk a little bit about why document management in general, and then why specifically Meridian in their case. And one of the biggest challenges with any document management implementation is the adoption of it into the organization. And I have to brag on CU in this respect. I mean, they're amazing at how they got the system to be a part of how they do their jobs, everybody. And they've received incredible dividends for that. And so she's going to tell that story about how they pulled that off. So she'll also touch on the project, the different groups that are using Meridian. Intermingled into that is where we're going to demonstrate the product from different perspectives. And Phil will get a real short chance to share a little bit about his CAD stuff because we're cramming a lot in here. One of the other reasons I kind of left Phil out a little bit on this one is because we've done this presentation before, so many of you have heard the story already from the CAD perspective, and Ariane has a different slant on it, and so I wanted you to get the benefit of that version of it.
All right. I certainly fill any of you in, at lunch or whatever, so if you got more drawing related.
And I should mention too, on Friday morning, I'll also be talking just a little bit about how we're linking our Meridian system with our GIS, if you have questions about that. So.
Yes, I'm sorry, you're sitting up front, I should have said something about Liz. She's doing some real cool stuff with GIS. And actually, there'll be a slide about that, and I'm going to show an example.
I'm just here as a ride along, so.
So real briefly, I wanted to just touch on our organizational structure. Facilities management actually is under the Vice Chancellor for Infrastructure and Safety, along with auxiliary groups like parking and transportation, et cetera. And facilities management is split into two parts, planning, design, and construction, and facilities management services. Interestingly enough, document management is happening on the planning, design, and construction services side, a little bit on the facilities management services side, but the support for document management is coming from the facilities management services side. So I want you guys to kind of see how that worked. So why document management? Well, really, we wanted to look at storing documents consistently. Sustainability is a large word, and on our campus, it is an important word. We were moving from paper to electronic documents, so we wanted to be able to store those documents consistently regardless of individual preference. So I might think of something differently than Phil, so we wanted to make sure that how we were doing it was consistent. There are various points of view in how you search for documents. I think about things differently than Chuck or Glenn, and so we wanted to give people the ability to locate documents from their own point of view. We wanted to make sure that our document management was integrated into our business processes to preserve legacy information. Oftentimes, particularly from a project perspective, people want to know how things happen to come to a certain point in a project. We wanted a way to preserve that information. Also, we found that we had high charge rate staff spending hours trying to locate information in an archive paper file. I don't know if any of you have ever had that problem, but we did. So we looked at it from a return on investment point of view also. Really, do we need our project managers with their charge rate being about $100 an hour searching for a document in a paper file? Probably not. So we did go with Meridian, which allowed us to integrate easily with our work management system, Famous. It helped us work toward our campus sustainability goals, the no paper. And really, when you see our operation, we don't really have paper at all. The wizards within Meridian were configurable to match our business processes. And as business processes change, we are able to work to configure how we're using Meridian for that. Also, Meridian helped us cater to a variety of needs. All of facilities management can use Meridian, look at the documents in Meridian, pull information, whatever. Various groups within facilities, from our operations and maintenance side to our project management side, we have data that's in one location. Also, it caters to the individual because the individual can find their stuff very easily using navigation views. So when we decided, Phil mentioned that we went live with Meridian on Halloween, October 31st, 2011. I only get that date from Phil. He's the date guy in our office. So before we went live, we went through a whole development and implementation process. It was interesting because when we decided to look at a document management system, we had buy-in. Phil initiated a lot of the discussion, but we had buy-in from our management team, from the funding to the, yes, we're going to use this, and we're going to use this and implement it eventually across our entire department. So the management team delegated representatives from each of the interested groups. Phil from CAD, I had one of my staff members working on the committee. All of that, my boss said yes, and he was a champion for it. Phil was a champion for it. We had a good promotional team, right? So we delegated the development, from the how do you name a file to just when are we going to go live? How are we going to train on this? All of those things were discussed and shared before we went live. So when we did go live, CAD really jumped in, all in. What was interesting is we jumped all in with projects. Our project managers, our project coordinators, just the project team in general jumped all in. So we said, from this date forward, all active, all new projects, the documents for those projects will be managed within Meridian. No more saving it on your desktop, no more saving it on a file server, no more hiding it in a paper file. Meridian. If it's not in Meridian, the document doesn't exist. So we did training. Glenn came out and did some training. We did internal training. We talked about how we were going to support the users. And so we set all of that up. We gave people an opportunity to really get into the system and use it. And then we started making it a requirement as part of their performance plan. That took about a year and a half. We wanted people to get comfortable. We wanted them to understand that it was important to the organization that we do that. So it doesn't matter what level you are in our organization, document management is part of your job. Which leads me to my third point, document management is part of our business practice. Every process that we have has not only its own components, but it has a document management component as well. So if you are writing a contract, the document management piece of that contract writing process is written into our business practice. And our management team enforces that business practice. You want to jump in and say anything? Okay. So we want to start, I'm going to talk mostly about projects documents. I am a lot more familiar with the project side than with the CAD side, so that's why I'm not going to talk about CAD. We had old school people. I don't know, do you guys have people in your organization who are like, what? I need my paper, right? Print it out for me. I want to see it in paper. I can't look on a computer screen. That's just, I can't see what I need to see. So we got the what? No more paper? And we said, yes, no more paper. If you're a contractor and you have to submit something, you're submitting it electronically. If you're an architect and you have to submit something, it's submitted electronically. If you're a project manager and you have to do something, you're doing it electronically. We don't deal with paper. Which is why it's hard to show you guys our operation, right? Because it's electronic. So that's why we have Glenn, and he's going to show you what we do. So we had all old project files, projects that were closed. And we said, fine, we're going to use an archiving method for those. So we have what we called an archive vault or a migration vault in Meridian. And we said, we'll migrate old documents as part of our training program. We'll migrate old documents if we have to reference those documents on a new project. CAD did things a little differently. They put everything in through a migration process. And then our paper archives are basically, we know we have paper archives that were old, but we aren't adding to those because we have no more paper. So we use it as a part of our everyday process, and this is what I want. We're going to show a little bit of this, but it's cradle to grave. So our templates are in Meridian, our processes are in Meridian, even email templates, so that we are communicating consistently with our various entities, contractors, architects, whatever. So do we want to show that?
Yep. Real short side trip though. So CU is an example of doing document management in a big way, meaning basically high upper management bought into the concept. Upper management said, we're going to do this, we're going to do it right, we're going to do it throughout the organization. I just want to acknowledge that that's probably rare. It is rare. It's not probably rare, it is rare. A lot of the time when we implement the system you're about to see, we don't have that luxury. A lot of the time it's much more focused. We have drawings, we need to go clean up our plan room and archive them. That also can be done. So as you see what you're about to see, don't feel like you can't do pieces of what you're about to see. You don't have to do it all, and most don't do it all. I mean, I would love to have 100 CU boulders, but I only have a handful of CU boulders, and then I have a whole lot of people that are doing subsets of what you're about to see. So don't get scared by the size of this elephant. It doesn't have to be that big for everybody.
No, but if you have an opportunity to make a business case to your management team to actually do adoption, like we've done it really actually will save you time, energy, and money in the long term, I promise you, because just dedicating a few resources to doing it correctly saves you time from redoing.
When you say no more paper, what is your project manager that do? Like, we get a drawing from an architect firm, and our electrical engineers will go through and red light stuff. They'll check changes and things like that.
We do it all electronically.
So you're using
Yes.
We use Adobe Shared Review for our internal reviews. We require our contractors and architects to submit electronically.
Are they? Do you guys have like large screen that they can do?
We have a setup, our reviewers have a setup, and just as a side note, and I'm happy to take you to our office at any point in time, but everybody in our office has 2 screens. CAD might be an exception to this because they have, their own setup, because they do they have different systems. But our average setup in planning, design, and construction is a laptop, 2 monitors, one 19-inch, one 23-inch or something like that, and it works fine. So,
You had no problem carrying.
you know what?
Move over.
Several years ago, we had a pretty large turnover in staff. We had retirements. We had some people, when the economy started getting better, some people went to the private sector. We also had a huge, I don't want to say influx of money, but we were funded for a lot of projects, and so we hired a lot of staff. And most of those people came from the private sector, where they were used to doing everything on a tablet. So they think that it's really luxurious to have what they have here, which helps our case.
So I think when you see this, I mean, it would be hard for you to not say everybody should do it this way. I mean, I don't know how you could not honestly feel that way about it, but maybe I'm wrong, and if I am, come tell me. But the fact is, not everybody has that resource, and not everybody has that funding. So you have to eat that elephant one bite at a time, and you have to go find a win. You got to go do some piece to this to convince the organization that it's worth doing the whole thing over time, at least.
And we didn't say everyone in the organization is going to now use this system in the sense that everyone's inputting documents or everyone's viewing documents. We have a phased plan to bring everyone in. We chose to start with CAD, design and construction, and we'll bring them in as we can develop for their particular needs.
And we got a couple slides after this demo that talks to that, how they're phasing it into some more departments over time. So,
Do you want me to drive while you talk?
no, actually, I'd like to drive.
Assuming you guys are did training for the groups for,
I'm sorry, I
how to
didn't hear you.
use Adobe Review, training,
Yes.
then it's ongoing.
Yes. So we do training, we do initial training, we do refresher trainings. We do 6-month review of our processes and update them. And we document all of our processes in written form and make them available to everyone in Meridian.
So a little bit about Meridian, because some of you have not seen it at all, maybe. So I've got to kind of start at square one, which is why I made her let me drive, because she'd probably just jump in there and go. And
I like being the driver. I don't know what to say about that.
so on the left side of the screen is what we call the navigation area. It looks and feels like Windows Explorer, and that's for a good reason, because people are comfortable with that largely. So that's not an accident. The upper right side of the screen is what we call the property pages, where we can see all of the metadata about the one document we're highlighting right now. So when I highlight a different document, now I'm looking at that different document in the viewer, but I'm also looking at all of this document's metadata, or properties or fields, call it what you want. And there's a lot of fields in here about where, what this project location is, what building it is, etc., what project number it is, who the project manager is, the dates of the project, status of it. It can be tagged to equipment. This one isn't, but the class, just on and on. You're going to see more of that in a minute, but anyway. So the thing about Meridian that we mentioned earlier, that Ariane mentioned earlier, is that it lets people come at the documents from various points of view, because not everybody has the same job, and even within their own job, wear different hats, so they come at it different ways depending on what they're trying to accomplish at any given time. So the particular nav view that I started with, nav being short for navigation view, is just project stuff, okay, organized by the project manager, then by the project number, and then by the class of document it is, or the document taxonomy. So you can see here that when I open up Robert Dean, a PM over there, I can see his project numbers. They've had various project management systems or approaches over the years, so there might be a different style number in here. If I open up, tell me somebody that has lots of projects.
Dvorsky?
I was gonna say.
Dvorsky? Oh, right below, there you go.
No, Faber came in too late.
And somebody that's been around a long time. But anyway, so you can see all these PRs at the bottom. That was the way they used to do it. The CPs at the top, that's the way they mostly do it today. So this is not just the project number, it's also the project description. We'll come back to that in a minute. But then when I go open up one of these projects, I see all the different documents organized by classification. So the contracts by classification. So the contracts, correspondence, financial, this one actually doesn't have too much.
Go to 176503. Oh, you passed it. Yep.
176503. So here,
Overland Drive.
well, I'm getting this. Sorry. All right, I'm gonna tell the truth. I'm gonna tell the truth. This is a copy of their vault on my laptop because I did not want to be dependent on the network in here because I saw how bad it was going for certain people. So I don't have all the documents in here. I have all the records, but I don't have all the actual documents sitting on my laptop. So I'm purposely trying to go to places where I know I actually have documents. So there's the truth.
Ah,
Do you guys have an established standard for that, that directory structure?
Yes.
They have to use that directory structure?
Actually, you'll see that. in a
You see
minute.
that, yeah.
Yes, hold that thought. So much to cover. So what I want to show now is this is a great navigation view for a PM to understand what he or she has been involved with in the course of their history at the university. This is a lot of projects for Richard Dvorsky, more than he probably wants to bite off every stinking time he gets into Meridian. So he can go to another navigation view. See all these choices here? A little overwhelming at first, but trust me, each person has their 2 or 3 favorites that they go to. So it's not like they use all of these. They know which ones they love, that they fall in love with. And so the PMs are gonna live in this particular nav view right here, which is the same kind of a thing. It's still projects, but now it's only the active projects, not all of the projects. So if I go to Mr. Dvorsky again, these are the projects he's literally working on today. Now what does that translate to when you see something like that? Him doing his job more efficiently. He's not browsing through a folder structure all the time that's not suited to his needs. It's my stuff. It's all about me, me, me. Y'all know any PMs like that?
in our world, it's all about me, and they conform. I'm just saying. Yeah, right.
So not only do these navigation views rearrange documents based on a different point of view. Oh, actually, sorry, I got one more I want to show you before I go on. So now the same kind of documents, still project documents, but now I want to come at it a different way. I want to come at it by building and then by the project. So now it's not about a PM, I'm researching a building. It might even be a PM that's researching the building. So he's wearing, that's a part of his job. So if I go to the University Club building, I see the projects that have happened in that building. These are the same projects you saw elsewhere, but these might have been managed by different PMs over time. Now some of these, I want you to notice that the project numbers look different, okay? These are the legacy ones that mostly Phil's group was scanning while the PMs were using it live for their projects when they went live. Phil's group was busily with students and what have you, scanning yesteryear's stuff and loading it in using a different project numbering convention because they weren't using the current project management system that they used. Okay? Notice that the original drawings are on top. Now, this PR down here probably happened before these CPs, so it's not organized chronologically here. So I can actually go to a slight variation of this nav view, go to the same building, 202, and now I see the same exact project you saw a second ago, but now it's organized by the date of the project, the approximate time frame it happened. So this is a chronological listing. And if you look off to the end of it, you can see in parens the actual project numbers still, but it's just organizing it up chronologically. So if I want to understand the building and hand off to an architect what they need in order to do a major remodel, I'm going to give them the original drawings, and I'm going to go in here and cherry pick certain things that are going to be beneficial to them. I'm not going to give them something where they've mounted an antenna on the roof or what have you. They don't care. Does that make sense? Now, not only do these navigation views rearrange the documents into different virtual folder structures, they also filter the documents to a subset of stuff. So what we were looking at all that time was project stuff. Well, not everything's project related in an organization. We also have departmental admin and standards. So if I go to the department admin and standards, now I see them organized by the class of document it is. So this isn't specific to a project, this is a policy or a safety procedure or whatever. One of the main things that they do with Meridian that's so cool is they maintain all their templates, all their forms, all their standard contracts, all of that stuff is in this part of the vault. And so if they want to go grab, give me a good one to go to
Just
put
go to
into a project.
financial,
Financial,
go to professional services,
professional
and
services.
that one right
All
there.
right, so what is this? Tell them what this is.
So this is our funding approval document. It's required on every project. So if Liz is the client on a project and she wants us to come in and remodel this room, the first thing she has to do is tell us she's got the money to do that. And this is how she communicates that to us.
So they go, this is the standard template. It's blank. It's just a template. It's got a lot of blanks in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on this template and we're going to say copy it to a project. It's only certain people, by the way, are allowed to change that template. So the latest, greatest template's always in there. If the organization decides to improve the template, a subset of people have security rights that let them check it out, improve the template, check it back in. But there's a version history of it, but everybody is automatically looking at the latest version. They have to dive in to look at the prior versions if they want to.
Which is another benefit of document management, because if you have templates and forms that you're maintaining, how many of you have had the problem where people have modified your forms, right?
So I'm going to copy the project. Now this is the place where that it gets interesting. So usually by now, you're thinking, well, Glenn, all those cool nav views and all that data looks great, but who the heck has time to put that in? I mean, just forget it. I'm out of here, and you're out the door, mentally, if not physically. Well, don't leave yet, because this is the good part, all right? You just saw a little bit of the results of what you're about to see, but how does this really happen, okay? Well, everybody in the organization, when they put a document into Meridian, whether it's because they went to a template, like I just did, and said copy it to a project, or whether they already created the document outside of Meridian and they're dragging it into Meridian and dropping it, or whether they just launch up Word and save something into Meridian, or it came on an email as an attachment from a consultant and they're dragging it right from their Outlook into Meridian. In all of those examples, they're introducing a document in Meridian, okay? We have a concept that we created called wizards, wizards that conform to the business process. So I said a second ago that this was a project. When I said copy to project, it's a project. So it already knows that if it's a project, you better have a project number. You're not putting it in here without a project number, okay? Well, do I have to key all that stuff in? Well, you can if you know the number. Tell me one.
CP 149773.
So notice it's matching characters as I type, 7. So here's the number that she said just a second ago. I can now just double click it and I'm done, or I could have finished typing, which is what she would have done.
I don't like the mouse.
Yep. Now you say, well, that's cool, but where did that come from? Well, let me actually clear something here. And I'm going to go put that I want to filter to active projects because I don't want to look at this huge list right now. This is every active project that that they have going on right now at CU Boulder. Okay, if I had taken that filter out of there, there'd have been 5,000 or 8,000 of these things in here, and it would still come up. Okay, now who put all that in? Not Meridian. They have a project management system that they use for this part. So we integrate with their existing project management system. So this project, before a project can exist, it has to be entered in their project management system, and certain data elements have to be entered. We just leverage it. We don't recreate it. And what's cool about this is if I'm a project manager, I can go in here and right click and pick who I am. So we'll pick Mr. Dvorsky since we've been picking on him. And so I'm pretending to be him for a minute. So what I would do is I would save my preference. This is just on my machine. This isn't going to affect anybody else. Well, now every time the wizard fires, meaning every time I put a document into Meridian and I go pick this button right here, it's pre-filtered for me to my stuff. It's all about me, me, me. Okay? So he doesn't have to type if he doesn't like it like she does, or doesn't remember the numbers, or a little dyslexic and flips numbers every now and then.
He likes the mouse.
So do I.
Now, another thing that just happened is a lot of other business logic. It triggered from that selection of project number, it triggered about 30 pieces of information that this document will be able to be found by forever. One thing, one pick, 30 things that the whole organization will benefit from forever. Yep.
So with the pulling project information from your project management system, what happens when something changes in that project management system? Does it update in real time, or does it do like a batch process at the end of the day? Or?
It does it nightly.
Uh-huh.
Yes, so you'll see the changes from the PM system the next morning. Yep. You'll still be able to pick the project number, it'll still get associated to it, doesn't slow you down, but you might be seeing slightly out of date data, like a project name slightly changed during the day, or active status. But then that night, it sorts itself out and all's good in the morning.
We actually had that concern also when we first started this. Like, what if something changes in Famous and then I won't see it in Meridian? I will tell you how many times I've heard that come up as a problem. 0.
So it not only triggered those fields, it also triggered the location data. So it knew when in their project management system, they get a chance to say that this project number is related to building 433, floor 2, room CR 224 in this case. And it triggered all that, so I don't have to even pay attention to it. But I want to mention something, a little side trip real quick. This is their CAFM system. So the valid list of buildings isn't being made up in the document management system, it's coming from the definitive source of that information, which is their CAFM system, their space management system. And so if I walk down these lists, I'm only going to see that real buildings, that building's floors, not all floors everywhere, but that building's floors and that building's rooms. So then they go in, it already filled in, oh sorry, a little context again. Where did I begin this conversation? I found a template and I said copy to project. So I've been rambling, but all I really did so far was pick a project number. So I'm 2 seconds into it if this was real, and I wasn't running my mouth, okay? It's already filled in the type of a document it is because it knows that from the template. The only thing they have left to do is to fill in what they call their file suffix, which is kind of the traditional way of thinking about a file name. So what would I have called this file if I wasn't using a document management system? They even built in help notions in here that tells them, so it's more consistent, how people fill this in. So the date created or signed for this PST that they're putting in. So I'm just going to put today's date.
I'm impressed. Glenn even knows our acronyms.
Yeah, I was winging it. I got lucky.
Well, it's scary. When you said that project number, I knew what project it was. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, I really only know 2 project numbers.
So the point I want to make sure that doesn't get lost here is that they haven't entered much of anything. I've been rambling, but really all they did was pick a project number, type in a couple of minor things, and hit finish. I'll show it.
Trying to get in.
I'll show it again in a second on something more realistic to your stuff. So
I was just going to say that the red titles that you saw are mandatory. You can't finish it without answering those.
Great.
The black fields, the black titles are, if you have that, optional, depending on who you are putting stuff in.
So what this is telling me right now is the document I just created doesn't show up in this filtered view that I'm looking, because I'm looking at a view of just departmental standards right now. I'm not looking at project stuff at all, okay? and it's saying, hey, I can't show you the very thing you just put in. Well, that may be fine. I may just say, I don't care, because I'm gonna go grab another template and put it in, and another one and put it in. But eventually, I might be like, okay, I'm done with that. I wanna be in my project now. So they just simply go in here and say, go to my project. I don't know if I picked an active one when I did that.
You
so-
did.
I did?
Yes.
You're sure?
Yes.
22? Okay, I'm trusting you here. Oh,
After 5 years, you doubt me. I'm sad. I just have to, dish it back.
Yep. So anyway, what that did was it took that template you saw before, copied it to the project, filled in all that metadata just after me entering 2 or 3 things. Now they can simply double click on the Word document. It checks it out to them. So it's staked their claim on this document, so multiple people won't change it at the same time, and then they can fill this in. I told her just yesterday that we now have the ability to fill this in for them from Meridian. So we could actually pump data into these forms automatically. So I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have another little revenue opportunity here soon.
It's fine. Eric's good for it.
So anyway, you fill in all of this stuff, which I'm not gonna do, and I'm gonna just save it now.
We ask for it and our IT guy ends up paying for it, so, it's all good.
Works for us.
That was recorded, you guys.
Uh-oh. Cut that out.
So if I'm done with this document, great. I can now finally right-click on it, and I can do what's called release it, unstake my claim to it, if you will, check it in, if you will. And it's fully in the system, and life is good. Now, if I realize I made a mistake later, and I need to work on this some more, or maybe it just needs to be revised for whatever reason, very simple. They just double-click the file, they say, check it out to me. It launches up the associated application. So if that had been an Excel file, it would have launched Excel. If it's an AutoCAD drawing, it will launch AutoCAD. And so then they can make their changes. Oops.
Just hit tab.
Oops.
Ah! Should have let you drive.
I offered.
And save it and get out. Now the last thing I want to show on this real quick, man, there's so much we could talk about, but we got so little time. So I'm going to go ahead and release it. And the last thing on that one I want to show real quick is that there is now a version history to this. So another time savings from the project manager's point of view is he doesn't have to sit there and date things and copy them all the time anymore. That takes time, people. You're sitting there every time you're thinking about, do I need to preserve a version of this? If I do, I'm going to copy it. Then I'm going to change that copy of to a date or a rev level in the end of the file or whatever your preference is. It takes care of all that behind the scenes. He doesn't have to worry about it anymore. If I want to go back to that version and view it, before I made that change you just saw, there it is before the change. If I go highlight both of these and say compare it, it shows them side by side. So you can see it here before I made the change and here with make a change. And with AutoCAD drawings, it even shows a third window that shows the delta. So it literally highlights the differences. Okay. So,
Can I say one
you
thing
can
about
say
this?
as much as you want.
So this is great from a project perspective, but I also want you guys to think about this programmatically. We do a lot of reporting and we send reports out on a regular basis to executive leadership and administration and so forth. And we want to, be able to look back at our legacy reports. We don't have to use dates and things like that. We have the most current on top so everyone can view the most current, but if they want to see the difference between last month and this month, it's there. It's easy. They can do that relatively quickly. So not just from projects perspective, but from an entire organizational perspective, it's very useful, this idea of versioning.
We're going to run out of time, so I'm going to take the liberty to just simply say they're expanding it into planning so that the planning department, who has like pre-projects, if you want to think of it that way, can do the same kinds of things. And they're doing that in a phased approach, sorry.
Nope,
But
perfect.
we just got to move on because we got to get to a real important part here in a second. So, and I'm going to kind of steal your thunder here a bit because we're going to lose it, the point here that we got to get to. So he was loading all those archives in. They also managed the base floor plans in here. So actually, let's real quickly go back to Meridian.
Bless you.
And we're going to go to sustaining building by abbreviation. And I only have a couple buildings in here, so do you know the abbreviation for the Hale Science Center by chance?
Hey.
Okay. They could
That
have,
was easy.
they can come at this a lot of different ways, by the way. This is just the way I chose right now. They can come at it by building name or building number or by abbreviation. Okay, so they have base floor plans in here. These are their master floor plans. And what I'm going to show you real quickly is that this drawing right here, the process to change it is pretty much what you already saw. I'm not going to do it in the interest of time, but it's been changed a lot over its history. And so I can go in here and I can highlight any two versions of this, and I can see that history of that change, which all of a sudden isn't working. Love it when that happens. There it goes. I don't know what it did wrong the first time. And so I can literally go in here and see, zoom in here. I just randomly picked this. It might not have been the best example, but, oops, wrong direction. Where's the zoom window on this thing? There it is. So I can tell that they moved a lot of room numbers around and resized them in this particular version. That wasn't the best example, but.
So just real quick, so how does that link then back to, you said that you could put in like room numbers, for example, into your document management, so you could reference, room 143, and obviously we all know room numbers change.
Yep.
If you update it in CAD, how do you document those changes in the past?
So from a document, that's a long answer.
I
I'm
can
not sure I'm going to be able to
imagine,
give you, I'm going to have to give you a real short version of it. From a document management perspective, you can't chase your tail with room numbers
Right.
like that. You have to think of it like, what was that room number called when the project happened? So if you're going to tag your documents down to that level of detail, and most don't. So first thing I want to say is most people don't bother to say it was that down to the room level. If they can get to the building and floor, they're happy. But certain expensive rooms on the campus, like a very expensive lab or something, those don't change as often, and you might tag it down to the room level. But if it ever does change, it's going to have to be looked up by what it was called, not by what it is called.
That's all, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so CAD is where we left off, and one of the things that's really cool that they do, in addition to what you've seen so far, and this is where Liz comes in, is they now link this up to their GIS system so that they can come at these documents from a graphical perspective. Okay, so I actually just built a link onto here manually to be able to demo it on my laptop. I mean, in the real world, you would be in your GIS system, you would zoom in on a certain building or whatever, you would right click on it, and up comes this little menu right here. And in that menu are links to the documents. I want to go to the finish schedule, I want to go to the floor plans, or I want to go to all documents. So you can go to subsets about that building, or you can go to everything about that building. Well, the link I kind of manually embedded on here for the purpose of the demo is going to take me to a building. And what it does is it launches Meridian, and it passes in the URL, the building number, from the GIS system. So it pre-queries for just that building, and it came up with 558 documents about that particular building that I right-clicked on. So now on the left side, I can further filter depending on what I'm trying to accomplish at any given time. If I had clicked the floor plan one, by the way, it would have just brought up the 8 floor plans, or whatever it is. I wouldn't have to go do any further filtering. But because I picked on the all one, I can go in here and say, well, what I really want here is the closeout documentation, the record set PDF files, and I'm an electrician, so what I really want are the electrical files. So that quickly I got down to 28 of them about that building. That still may be a little bit more than I want to chew, so I could get even more detailed. I could go in here and say, well, what I really want are floor plans. Now I got it down to 15. So you can just keep filtering until you get to what you want. You can even do a Google type of a search right here that says find it based on any of the data about the document. And they haven't implemented this, but it can even OCR, you can OCR the documents or read the content of them and search the contents themselves. Okay? Now, this same technology that you just saw is available in a couple of other ways. It's available holistically. So I can go in here, sorry, they could go to a website, they have a link for it on their, intranet site, their little departmental site, that they can come at these documents from a web point of view, and they can go in and say, I want to find a building floor plan, for example. Go in and type any part of the name of the building. So if I type in library, it's going to find Northern Library for me, because that's the name of their library here. If I type in science, it's going to find all the buildings that have the word science somewhere in them. So I go to Hale Science Building, I can say, well, what I want is the trades plan. And the reason I'm showing this is because this is their federated concept that somebody asked about earlier. So if I go in here now and I right-click and view this file, I'm not happy with the network connection I have right now. Anyway, this is where they don't try to represent everything in the building, like all the mechanical and stuff. They put some of the key equipment on here and some of the key things like where's the major shutoff valves and stuff like that. So that's what they call their trades plan. But what I wanted to mention real quickly here is this is using the base floor plan as an XREF. And so this system also supports the notion of relationships between files. So it handles the complexity of the CAD world. And the reason I think that's so important is a lot of systems out there can do a lot of the things I've talked about up until now, but they fall apart when it comes to Revit and AutoCAD. So, OnBase or Documentum and all these different systems that you're being forced down your throat because the university bought it for student records. They can come to a certain point and then they can't handle what you're seeing anymore, and this is a great example of that. Okay?
Do you have a Revit example?
It does not view Revit files because nobody views Revit files, but Revit itself. But you can create a 3D PDF of it, sitting beside it, and use that, or a Navisworks file. But other than that, it's the same as you saw. It's just a file. Yep.
So
They don't
the
use
user,
Revit
once
yet.
they get the file, like the drawing you just brought, can the user download it from there?
Yes, if he has rights to. So it's controllable whether they can just view it or they can download it, etc.
Some
This-
of, some,
Go
I'll
ahead.
just cut in real quick. Some of our project drawings that we're archiving after the project, we bind our XREFs and all that, and things like images, if it's the company's logo, we just trash it and say forget it. If it's key information, like they scanned a schedule and stuck it in, what we'll do is we'll zip that file and put it in for the DWG, and it'll say record set DWG, but the file suffix says .zip. So on a few cases, we've filed that way, but predominantly it's.
So this is the same thing you just saw, and it's the same data you just saw. I'm going to show you one last example of the power of this web exploring solution. If I pull down the list of projects right now, might regret doing that because I haven't done it and it hasn't been cached. I didn't think it would take this long. The reason this is taking so long is because this is calling up a list of every single project in their entire system right now. Usually doesn't, maybe something's gone wrong.
Can I ask a question while we're waiting?
Yep, please.
More aimed at, when you get a new building, and you get a construction set of drawings from, like, you get a PDF set, do you have a wizard or a way to enter all that, so it's gonna add all the information you want from this set? Or to what level do you have to enter that information again, like, floor plans, elevations, broken down, electrical, civil?
We do it each sheet at a time, just like we went through our historical stuff, yeah. Now, I saw somebody here with a spreadsheet that, IntelliWizard or something I've been hearing about?
IntelliPort.
IntelliPort.
Is it, so there's a method of getting it in a format from the architect saying?
And I want to learn more
this is
about that
gonna
myself.
populate our information, so we load the drawing.
Yes, so you can give a very smart spreadsheet to your vendors and say, you need to fill this out when you deliver documents to us, like a transmittal.
Sure.
And then it'll suck that data right in. But
It's like
before,
a table of drawings will just fill all that
right,
information.
but before it does it, it validates it. Because bad garbage in spoils the whole thing. So it's very focused on validation.
We have another question in the back.
Do you allow users to have any printing options at all?
It's up to each customer. That may be a question for them more than me, because the system's configurable to allow it to print or not.
We do, but we do allow our users to print, but really they don't do a whole lot of printing, at least not on the project side. I'm not even sure they do much printing on the CAD side anymore.
Our printer's gonna last a long time. We're not using it much anymore. But I'll get a set of 15 PDFs in a PDF file that our landscape architect would like a half-size setup. Knock them out. So, but it's very rare that we print stuff anymore.
So I'm desperately trying to make sure I get one thing. I'm going to show you this on mobile in just a second, is where I'm trying to get to, and we only got about 7 minutes left. So one thing I just want to make real clear here is that this search tool right here is a faceted search tool, and you can come at any things and skip any things, and that's the power of it. Okay, but that's a mouthful that I just said. Faceted search tool, come at things or skip over things. Now, what do I mean by that? If I know the building and I don't know the project, I skip over project and I go at what I'm trying to find. I say, well, it's a contract that I want, or it's closeout documentation that I want. And, you know, what kind of closeout? It's the notice of acceptance. It's an O&M manual, okay? If I know that, all right, I'm going to say, you know, I want the record set, PDF files, again. Do I want it only one discipline or not? If I do, pick it. If I don't, skip over it. So ultimately, when you're done, you hit search. You get back a result set of 211, and you scratch your head and go, well, okay, I think I better try to find some more here. That's the power of the tool. And each person comes at it according to what they know or don't know. Does that make sense? But what's neat about it is it'll never lead you to a dead end. And it will always filter your choices based on your previous choices. So that's what's called a faceted search engine. You've used one when you bought a book on Amazon.com or whatever. Fiction. Now I only see fiction authors to choose from. So when I pick building, if I pull down the list of projects now, I'm only seeing that building's projects. Had I skipped over building, which I could have done and I tried to do, it would have tried to open up every project we've ever done on the entire campus. And that's why it choked a bit. I was surprised though, because it does come up. I don't know why it isn't right now.
And on our network, even that doesn't take very long. I'm talking a few seconds.
All right, so you just saw Explorer. The last thing about this I want to mention is that in addition to calling it from GIS, which Liz did, we also set this up to call from their famous CMMS system. And we do this with Maximo and AIM and all the major players in the maintenance management world. So if I'm looking at a piece of equipment in Famous that I'm being told to go do some maintenance on it, I can go click in Famous on attachments, and we add a tab for Meridian to it because their product supports it that way. There's different ways we have to do it depending on what product you're using. But what's really cool is then when I click to view, it launches the same thing you already saw, but in this case, instead of passing the building number from GIS, it passed the equipment number that they were looking at. And it found the 4 documents that relate to that piece of equipment. So here I've got my warranty, so I can right click and say view it, and that quickly I'm looking at the warranty for this pump that I'm trying to fix. Or I can go look at the O&M manual, and there's a photo of it. I'm paging through them is what I'm doing. So I'm looking at the 4 documents by just stepping down them. I could also go back here and right click and say view, and I'm now looking at the O&M manual. And I can even, if the O&M manual is a modern document, it's automatically searchable. If it's a scanned document, you can OCR it and it's searchable. So I can even go in here and say, you know, I want to go search the content of this file for the word tools, and it will come up and find that word in here. So I can go find what tools that I need to take to do this project, or do this maintenance. All right, so my last demo, but I think everybody really wants to see this, I assume you would, is that we now have this on mobile. So this is a fairly recent, so this is my phone. Say hi to my grandchildren.
Hi.
I don't look old enough to have grandkids like that, do I? I'm not, by the way, but they are my grandkids. I'm not old enough to have grandkids that age. So I'm going to go into this mobile application here, live, and this is connected to the exact same thing that you were just seeing. Actually, this is connected back to my office in Houston because I was not ready to connect this to their production environment, so we got a copy of their environment in my office in Houston. So I'm literally talking to Houston from this device right now live, swear to God, okay?
We better not hear Houston, we have a problem.
Yes.
Yeah, Houston, we have a problem.
So I can scroll around in here, and I can go say, I want to go to a building.
You lost it there on the Houston part.
Yep, I know, I'm trying to get through this. So I pick building, because I want the same thing you just saw, but it's from a device point of view. So I pick building and I get a list of the buildings. So I'm going to type in that I want university, and there's University Club 202. So now I can go in and I can say I want the projects in that university. There's the same project data you already saw. This works on any device. This is an Android, but it works on iOS, any size, pad, mini, doesn't matter. It'll adjust itself to it. So I can go in and say I want the original drawings for this building. I could then go in and say, well, I only want record set PDF files, and I only want architectural. Let's just stop there. Could have done as much or as little as I want, same thing you already saw. I say search, up in the top. There's the results. So these are all the architectural original plans right here. It can be sorted any way. I'm just going to go at this floor plan right here for the first floor. This is all the metadata about that one document. Same kind of thing as you saw up in the top right corner in the power user. Then I can click here to open it. And I'm now viewing it, pinch to zoom. From Houston. I got that file just now from Houston. I'm looking at it. So I'm standing in the hallway talking, I'm a PM, I'm standing in the hallway talking to somebody about this project, and I need to look at one of my documents, and I didn't bring it with me. Boom, I'm looking at it that quickly. That pays off in a huge way. I'm out in the field trying to maintain that pump, I'm looking at the warranty, I'm looking at the O&M manual in seconds.
And if you happen to go on either the Heritage Center tour or the campus tour, that's one of our old Clouder drawings. The original, way back,
Good choice.
30s.
So, whew, I made it. It's 12, or actually 11:44. That's Houston time on my bottom right corner. Yes. So, 30 seconds of questions. You guys, sorry about that. I didn't mean to take.
How long did it take you to compile, load, do all your archive stuff?
Of the drawings, we had 75 to 80,000 drawings, specs, and O&Ms. Of course, the drawings took the most because each sheet is an individual input. Took us 3.5 years with anywhere from 1 to 7 students, leapfrogging over different computers.
And it was a combination of hard copies, PDFs?
It was all PDFs and DWGs as far back as the DWGs went.
But, so I'm talking about the older stuff, that's
Right.
paper.
Right. Well, the paper was already previously
Already
scanned.
scanned.
We had a project not too far previous to Meridian to scan all of our specs and O&Ms. That was a nightmare project because we went out of town to do it. Don't ever do that. But it took, I don't recall the total number of hours it took, but it took 3.5 years worth of student help to transfer those.
Did you have any supporting metadata for those drawings when you imported them, or was it just all done?
No.
Individually?
What you saw is what there was.
Yeah.
We hired students from engineering and environmental design, upper level, juniors and seniors, that, you know, had some familiarity with what they were looking for.
Yeah.
And they would look at the sheet number. If it was E, it was electrical, and they could tell from looking at it. They'd go through the little data boxes, and it was fire safety and electrical, and whether it's power or lighting. I mean, they looked at the titles on the drawing. They had to look at each one.
Yeah.
And if it was a PDF and a DWG, at least we could do the PDF first, fill it out entirely, say save this file's properties, hit save, drag in the matching DWG, change it to record set DWG, and boom, you're done.
What
So you
he's
got-
talking about is if I drag a document in again and drop it in Meridian, and I say what type of a document it is, the document I just put in prior to this one, I can say use all the same properties, and then just change what's different about it. So it actually goes pretty quickly if I'm putting a lot of similar documents in. I'm just saying, okay, change the sheet number, and now I went from the architectural set to the electrical, change the discipline in the sheet number. So it's all designed. I mean, we did not do justice to these wizards in the few seconds I had to explain them. Because the magic to this whole system, you cannot have all that cool stuff, okay, on a phone, on the web, if you don't have good data. It's all about good data. And so the wizards are the real issue. I mean, I cannot emphasize this enough. The wizards is what makes it all work.
And you get to customize what the wizard, asks you to put in.
So
You build it.
can I actually say something really quick? One of the things we started talking about the management perspective of this, and one of the things that this system really does is when we talk about consistency, we talk about breaking down silos by using exactly what Glenn said, good data. So Phil does some closeout stuff, Liz does some closeout stuff, I do some closeout stuff. We have broken down the silos in our groups by using consistency, good data. So now nobody has to wonder where that is. Really, you don't understand the power of that until you start to bring in your operations folks. Oh, well, now they're in, and then it becomes you're in it together. Your culture has changed because of one really maybe seemingly insignificant step, but it is so important for that to work together as an organization.
What happens when two people put the same document in, unbeknownst to each other?
It actually won't let you file two documents with exactly the same metadata. So say I did a hail drawing, and it was first floor plan architectural. When I fill all that data in, it generates a unique file name. And so if I try to file that same document again and I put in the metadata right, like you should, and most of that comes automatically when you put the project number in. If I try to file two documents that are exactly the same, it won't let me. You could force it to let you by adding a file suffix onto it, but it notifies you that there's already a document there that exists.
And when it's done putting it in, it puts it in context with everything else that's already there. So even if still you miss the sort of collision, it's not a true collision, but it's the same document that was described slightly differently, there's a pretty good chance it's going to end up nearby each other. And so you should pay attention after that to verify that, oh, this was already in there and I didn't realize it. Yes.
And we, as adding into that, we have that duplicate document resolver for our students adding things, and so if they add something that is similar, even with metadata, not even an exact duplicate, it will compare the two, and they can have options of either adding it to that file or, oh, this is a duplicate, nope, don't add it, or nope, this is different, I have to change something.
Yeah, I've been neglectful in sharing that with enough of my customers. I need to show you what Michigan State has on this duplicate.
So we're still not caught up with Michigan State.
I gotta keep a few tricks in my bag so they'll keep me around.
Michigan State has been our big brother in a lot of things. Meridian is one of them.
I'd like to say partner in crime.
Big sister. Well, big sister, big brother. What? Yeah.
Well, thank you all. We're over the time.
Thank you.
So.